Harry's Wife, Part 102.78. Was she cheating? Hello, I'm H.G. Tudor. We have a trio of sordid allegations today. First of all, the accusation that William was involved in having an affair. Presently, we'll be moving on to suggestion that Prince Harry was playing hide the sausage with little Harry in the early stages of his involvement with Harry's wife, but at the moment we're going to focus on the suggestion that Harry's wife has been involved in cheating. Who'd have thought it? Yes, a narcissist involved in cheating. As I've explained previously, most narcissists engage in some form of infidelity when their intimate partner primary source enters the devaluation phase. Some narcissists do it blatantly and brazenly, usually the lessers, the upper lesser A running around like a dog with six sticks, banging whatever moves, without any due regard for how the poor put-upon intimate partner primary source feels. The lower lesser and middle lesser, somehow still able to nail somebody, behaving like they'd of course shag the barber's floor, but whether it's a hoe or whether it's a him, they engage in seeking out new sexual partners and do so rather obviously because their narcissism doesn't guide them to keep it on the down low because they don't operate with a facade. Mid-range narcissists are a little more savvy. The operation of the facade means that they often hold themselves out at being a pillar of the local community, a bastion of decency, somebody who perhaps is involved in the church. And as avoidance of a threat to control and the preservation of the facade, they will engage in affairs, but are more likely to mask it, keep it quiet, keep it hidden, and behave in a more covert fashion in relation to it. Greater narcissists repeatedly have affairs, but they do so in such a fashion that nobody would know about it because they move in such rarefied circles, and those that do know about it know far better than to say anything, their silence being guaranteed. The nature of infidelity, of course, is one which I've spoken about before, where most people get worked up about the fact that their partner is involved in a physical or sexual liaison with somebody else outside of the relationship without knowledge or permission. Of course, infidelity can not only be physical and sexual, it can be emotional, financial, even intellectual, but people don't tend to get as worked up about that as they perhaps ought to. Indeed, I often explain to those that I consult with, individuals should be more concerned about the fact that their partner pours their heart out to somebody else, talks about their hopes and fears, gets all upset, exposes their vulnerabilities, as opposed to just dipping the wick on a one-night stand or backsculling a prostitute. Nevertheless, narcissists invariably cheat. Why? Well, we have no emotional empathy for those around us. So even though we may well have said those vows, they don't apply to us. Indeed, of course, the lesser just ploughs on with it, driven by the narcissism to assert control over that individual, and sex is a very good way of doing it. And therefore, when their intimate partner primary source is in devaluation, they will assert control over a secondary source or even a tertiary source by having sex with them. They've no emotional empathy for the spouse at home, they act with a sense of entitlement, and they have no accountability for the behaviour. They just do it. The mid-ranger is more likely to justify it. I had an affair because you never put out. You never talked to me anymore, and I felt lonely. Whether that's true or not is beside the point. That is the justification that the narcissism relies upon or generates in order to grant themselves permission to engage in seeking comfort outside of the marital bed. The greater, of course, knows what they're doing and simply does not care, but does not do it in as an obvious way as the lesser would do so. There's no need to justify it. They know why they're doing it. They're doing it for the prime aims. The issue of infidelity, of course, looms when the intimate partner primary source finds themselves in devaluation. As mentioned, sometimes they know about the affair or the cheating, sometimes they do not. The fact is, it occurs within the sustained devaluation because the narcissism dictates we no longer need to assert control over this person in a benign way. They've let us down, they're a traitor, therefore you can assert control over other people using sex and it's not a problem. Furthermore, It has the collateral issue of enabling that narcissist to perhaps start to seek a replacement for that now devalued intimate partner primary source. That is not always the primary motive of having the affair. It might simply to be gaining fuel elsewhere, asserting control over somebody else while devaluing the primary source, and isn't looking at swapping them for one another. But that is often what occurs. Many bewildered victims suddenly find that the narcissist, having ended the relationship, and sometimes not even telling them, is then found with somebody else, and they think, how did they get with that person so quickly? The reality is, of course, the relationship has been going on for some time, weeks, months, maybe even years, behind the back of the unwitting IPPS. The fact is that Harry's wife, having had numerous romantic relationships, will have undoubtedly cheated, and evidence emerges that suggests that this was the case. It's long been rumoured that she was cheating on the chef, Corey Vitello, when she was first seeing Prince Harry. Of course, that's never been substantiated, but the rumours keep circulating in that regard. There was a suggestion also, when she was seeing the chef, that she was chasing down Michael Del Zotto in 2013. She was rumoured to be romantically involved with him after calling him the best, although her spokesperson denied that this was the case. And this was all out of course, attending ice hockey games. Furthermore, there is the rather infamous tweet from Peter Holland, who is exhibiting emotional empathy by stating, at Harry's wife, I'll pick you up at the airport if that will make your travel a little easier when you get here. And that was way back on the 5th of November in 2014. However, someone writing Team Rachel Zane responded to Peter Holland 13, explaining, you know that kindness is the number one quality she looks for in a man. But shortly thereafter, it would appear that he then realised that things weren't as clear-cut as he thought they were, as he tweeted, part of me wants to unfollow you now because I found out you're married. No more 1 in a million talk. Him demonstrating that he's got some scruples. Peter Holland, the ice hockey player, appearing to be receiving the attention of Harry's wife back then in a flirtatious manner. Clearly, his response of suggesting, whoa, I was only being friendly with you because I thought you were unattached. Now I realise you're married. I'm backing off. Him recognising that boundary and having emotional empathy for the individual who she was, of course, married to, being Trevor Engelson. This suggests, although doesn't confirm, that there was some expression of interest at the minimum from Harry's wife in Peter Holland, and for his reaction to be the way that it was, suggested it was just more than simple hellos and how are yous, that she was flattering him, complimenting him, perhaps flirting with him, making suggestions about them hooking up. But once he realised precisely what the nature of her relationship was, he backed off. And of course, this led to accusations of Harry's wife being a puck bunny, that apparently she was a regular at anywhere the Leafs, the hockey team, were, while she was dating Corey Vitello. And it was stated on Twitter some time ago that this person knew someone who worked for the Leafs, and even they referred to Harry's wife as a puck bunny because she was often spotted hanging around them. It was also reported as well that the original story of how she met Harry also involved cheating. Now, of course, much of this is speculation, but the evidence of the overlap of the relationships, combined with the fact that we know that narcissists cheat, support that the probability is that there was some form of infidelity. It might not necessarily have been full-blown sexual intercourse. Some people would regard being flirtatious as unfaithful, others don't. It depends where the line is drawn. Some people, of course, regard looking at pornography as a form of infidelity, others do not. But the fact is, Harry's wife developed a reputation for being a puck bunny, which is to describe a female ice hockey fan whose interest in the sport is purported to be primarily motivated by sexual attraction to the players rather than enjoyment of the game itself, basically hanging around trying to score with them, even though at the time that she was in a relationship with Corey Vitello. You will, of course, know from earlier this year, when I detailed the extracts from Tom Bauer's Revenge, there was a suggestion of some shenanigans with the golfer Rory McIlroy. Again, it was clear that they were very cosy, that they were very into one another, and that they spent time together while she again was seeing the chef. The fact is, these behaviours appear to have been repeated, and is indicative of the fact that narcissists do cheat, and the frequency of these allegations and the material and evidence put forward supports this may well have occurred. This happens because, of course, Harry's wife's narcissism drives her to act in this entitled fashion, with no emotional empathy for other parties affected by it, an absence of accountability, and the fact, of course, that her modus operandi, in terms of seduction, was very much based upon doling out the spicy poontang, and utilising sex as a major weapon of seduction. If you're interested in learning more about that, I would invite you to read my excellent book, Sex and the Narcissist, which you can find in the Knowledge Vault, link in the video description, or on Amazon, to learn more about how the narcissist uses sex against you. Here, there is the suggestion that Harry's wife has cheated in the past. This then, of course, poses the question, what about the situation with Prince Harry? Well, once again, if the opportunity arises for her to assert control over somebody else by having a shag, then it's likely to happen. Prince Harry is in a sustained devaluation, remember, and therefore that increases the risks of infidelity. She does operate a facade, and therefore if it were to take place, it wouldn't be done in a clumsy fashion, that it would have to be done in a very secretive manner, because her narcissism would guide her that way. There hasn't been any evidence really so far that suggests that this has happened, and maybe the devaluing behaviours are done in a different fashion. Cold shouldering, triangulation, insult, shouting, possibly even physical attack. But sexual infidelity has perhaps not yet reared its head. Her narcissism, of course, will be looking out for alternative prospects, particularly given the fact that Prince Harry's stock is falling given his status as painted black. And therefore, one would have to watch this space to see if that road, which is well travelled by narcissists, is indeed travelled by Harry's wife. It would appear that she's cheated in the past, and therefore that, given of course the status of being a narcissist, means that it's highly likely to happen again, and therefore it's not an if, but when. I'm H.G. Tudor. Thank you for listening.